Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining our inaugural co-sell coaching session. My name is Rajesh Ramanguti, and I'm the Global Director of Field Marketing for the Microsoft Commercial Marketplace. In today's session, I'm excited to host Carve Partners, who have some amazing insights to share with you about co-selling best practices on the marketplace. But first, a quick introduction of what is this co-sell coaching series. The goal of this coaching session is to set up an opportunity for you to hear from your peers among our partner community on how to co-sell effectively through the marketplace. We plan to host these sessions on a monthly basis. Each session will be for 30 minutes, and you also have an opportunity to ask questions to our speakers. So please leverage the chat function to ask your questions for our session today. Now, without further delay, let me go ahead and invite Reese Berry, CEO of Carve Partners, to introduce his organization and share his insights and best practices with us. Reese, welcome, and please take it away.
Yeah, thanks so much, Rajesh, for having me here. It's really great to be here, kicking off this series with you. It's quite a cool series that you put together here. And so, everyone, it's great to virtually meet you. For those who don't know me, I'm the CEO of Carve Partners. And in the last decade, I've done really one thing, which is help ISVs partner and co-sell more effectively with Microsoft. It frankly doesn't sound impressive outside of this context, but in this context, it is quite useful. And so I'm excited to kick off this series, and I figured I'd just start with just level setting a bit into who is Carve Partners? What does my company do? And so first off, we like to start this who we are with really the why we exist story, which is we truly believe in the value of what an ISV can do to grow their business through marketplace, co-sell, their Microsoft partnership. And we personally experience the power of this when we work with ISVs, and we see things like the sales velocity or time to sale reducing, deals getting unblocked that we didn't think would close, expanding our customer reach, whether that be in geography related or industry specific expansion, access to budgets through things like incentives that we reinvest into different marketing activities and help grow our business that way. And of course, you can't not talk about the tremendous growth that marketplaces as a whole are going through right now. And so tacking on to and taking advantage of that enormous growth trajectory, it's a huge value of what we help and talk to our ISVs about. Now, all of that sounds great. It doesn't mean that it's the easiest of things to accomplish. And so what we actually do, if I put it simply, is we help partners and ISVs prioritize what they should be focused on, how they can be successful at it, and who inside of their organization should be responsible and or accountable for managing some of this really important relationship and things of that nature. And it goes to our mission of really creating these Microsoft partnerships simple and valuable. So we're going to jump straight into some of the content that we've prepared here today. When I think of this series, I very much think of it in a way where it's understanding how other partners, their experiences, their success stories, how they made this co-sell journey. So since I'm not an ISV, but rather we are an advisory or service provider that specializes in the space, I thought I would share kind of the culmination of how we see the partner co-sell journey play out in most cases. And so if we're looking at the slide here, we do see it in kind of 6 stages, 3 major pillars. You can see there at the top. But we really start with this new Microsoft partner, of course. In this stage, we're really talking about getting set up in Partner Center, going through the different onboarding and setup processes. And from a strategic standpoint, really establishing your why do you want to be a Microsoft partner? What's your better together story? What are you hoping to get out of your partnership? That's going to serve as really your North Star throughout your journey. The second stage we look at in our journey is activating. So in this stage, you're going to do things like get transactable, get co-sell ready. You're going to start to build some of your collaterals around co-selling and marketplace. And the third one, monetize, which is usually the one people latch onto and try to skip to. This is where we do things like get IP co-sell incentive eligible. This lets us decrement customers' max or their Azure commitments. This lets us start to actively co-sell with Microsoft because we can compensate sellers for the sale of our solution through Marketplace. And I call this one monetize, frankly, because it's when we start to see some of the incentives possibly coming in that we can reinvest into our strategy. It's where we start to see some of the value from some of the initial efforts that we did come through in terms of accelerating deals that we're starting to actively co-sell. And it's starting to see where we can start to tie back a revenue or an ROI to our efforts that we really we put forth. And then moving on to our next step, prioritizing. This is where a lot of partners get lost because they try to skip straight to scaling and they forget about prioritizing and optimizing. And so prioritizing, this is really where you know your why from the first step. And you look at things like, how can I get specific with what I want to accomplish with co-sell? How can I look at specific deals or specific workflows or specific incentive programs? How do I not get lost in the trap of boiling the ocean and trying to do everything all of the time? And so prioritizing is how we see that early success kind of start to materialize. And it's how we see that snowball effect of once we have 1 win, 2 wins, 3 wins, we can snowball into 1,000 wins, 2,000 wins, things of that nature. And then we get to optimizing. This is where like our scale is starting to increase. We're starting to have to build some process behind what we are delivering. We're getting to tap into more of those incentives and rewards. And so we're having to think about how we're spending those dollars. If we're reinvesting into a go-to-market campaign, or we're going to leverage some of that funding as deal sweeteners. And so we're starting to build our processes and mature how we think about our partnership and how we can reinvest and go to market. And then the last one, which is scaling. This is now we've prioritized, we've built some processes, and now we're ready to scale essentially. So we can handle co-sell at a high volume. We can co-sell on many deals at the same time. We probably have active go-to-market strategies that are maybe even specific to co-selling. So maybe we're doing account-based marketing into a specific group of deals with the hope to be able to co-sell with Microsoft on them. So the scaling is where really all of this comes together and we operationalize the different functions of our partnership. And so just kind of tying it all together, when we engage ISVs, for the most part, regardless of where they start, they typically follow this very similar path in terms of their journey and how their partnership matures when co-selling with Microsoft. Now, to tie in some of the life cycle stuff, the journey stuff, I thought it'd be really helpful just to prepare some best practices. These are things that when we look at partners, helps them set themselves apart by applying these practices and how really you differentiate yourself into becoming this top or standout partner in the Microsoft ecosystem. So we've got 4 here for you today. There's definitely more best practices than 4, but these are really some of the 4 key ones that we see when working with partners. And so the first one here we're going to talk through is just getting started the right way. We talked a bit about this on the last slide, but really having a solid why. So why do you want to partner with Microsoft? Why do you want to co-sell with Microsoft? Again, this is how we stay focused along that journey and make sure that we're grounded in your business outcomes. Because if you're not grounded in your business outcomes and what you're hoping to get out of it, then a lot of time we see things like burnout or misalignment between what, say, your executives expect out of the program and what we're actually executing against. And so, really, again, start the right way, knowing your why. Prioritize what you want to focus on and look at what you want to focus on. Learn how to execute. There's tons of great materials out there available that Microsoft provides and to help you with the execution arm of co-sell. Build your plan. Just like you have a business plan, your company has a business plan, have a partnership plan as well. What you're going to do, when you're going to do it, a roadmap of how you want the partnership to develop over, have your 1-year goals, your 3-year goals, things of that nature. And then, of course, involve your team. Like when you're getting started, you want to have that deep team involvement to make sure that all the stakeholders are bought into this. The key stakeholders I often see are typically in the sales group, marketing group. I like to include finance group because there is also quite a bit of financial rewards that they'll have to manage, as well things like product as well. There might be some billable opportunities that you want the product team involved in there too. Moving on to the second best practice, focus on high impact activities. Frankly, this is just good business advice on its own. However, it's particularly important when you're earlier on in your journey. When you're, let's just say, later in your journey, you have a lot less, you can stumble a few times and it doesn't feel as painful because you're already at this like critical mass of scale. When you're early in your journey, you really have to focus in on these high value activities to have those quick early wins, again, to start that snowball effect. So these are things like prioritizing your top deals, whether that's revenue or strategically, it's a top area, like a must-win account. Prioritize your top deals, super important. Leveraging map propensity. There's a marketplace reward that a lot of people have access to that can help you score your leads. As well, Partner Center has customer information directly in Partner Center that as you share deals, you can get customer information around, do they currently have a MAC agreement that you can help decrement? And so leverage some of those propensity mechanisms out there to score your deals. Focus on the top ones. That both of those things will ultimately lead into your deal sharing strategy there as well. Of what are you going to share and when are you going to share it? A big trap that a lot of people fall into in this category, especially early on, is sharing every deal as co-sell. You want to focus on the ones that you need help on, and B, that will you can spend, there's a higher value there, so you can spend a bit more time on them because those early deals, again, you don't have some of the deep processes. And so you want to make sure you're focusing your time on those high value deals. Moving to the third one, which is engaging Microsoft sellers. This particular one is super important. This is how you set yourself apart and differentiate yourself from all of the other partners out there. It's a vast number of partners bidding for Microsoft sellers' attention. Getting this one right will help you differentiate yourself really clearly. And so this is things like leading with the value to the Microsoft sales team, not being overly pitching on your specific product. Keep in mind, Microsoft sellers have thousands of products that they're looking across in the Azure marketplace. And so they can only get to a certain depth on your specific product. And so you really have to lead with the value of what will this sale lead to in the account, whether that be in terms of unlocking potential ACR or different quarter time mechanisms, different programs that you might be involved in. Really important to be focusing on there. And then clearly articulate your ask. Having a clear ask will always win when it comes to getting a Microsoft seller to engage. If you put yourself in their shoes and they have two emails out there, one says, I'd love to connect with you on this account. Another one says, I'd love to connect with you on this account. We're trying to get more deeply connected into the IT department. We're currently working with the marketing department, but we're struggling to kind of bridge the gap so we can sell it via marketplace. One has a very clearly articulated ask that the seller can action, and they can show up prepared to that first meeting to. The other one's a bit vague, right? So we want to make sure that we are being clear with what you need from them so that they know how they can action it. They can make a really split-second decision that'll lead to them engaging. And lastly, on this one, I just want to call out to really take a proactive approach here. There are a lot of automated emails that go between partner and seller when you put things in Partner Center. Don't rely too heavily on the automation there. Come over the top of the automated email. Send your battle card. Give them like specific asks and information about the deal, and just be a bit proactive about how you're engaging them and what your ask is of them. And then the last one, frankly, my favorite one, is keep winning, because this is how you start building your relationships within Microsoft. And these lead to things like joint account planning. They lead to things like increasing your brand recognition in Microsoft, which then kind of just snowballs again into the level of engagement that you get from Microsoft and Microsoft sellers. So these are things like sending post-sales win wires. Even if you didn't co-sell on a particular deal, I still recommend just a quick note. Hey, we just worked with your customer. We sold into your account. This is what we sold. You actually got credit for it, even though we didn't get a chance to co-sell at this time. But just let's make sure that we connect next time for future opportunities. These types of like small little gestures will go a long way in starting to build your brand and your credibility within the Microsoft ecosystem. Building up like a stash of currency, if you will, where you can start to make some asks maybe for account planning sessions down the road, things of that nature. And then this is probably like the number one thing I see in the keep winning thing is not treating this as a transactional relationship. So your goal here is to build your company's brand within Microsoft. And so that when sellers hear that brand name, it can correspond that with, oh, I had a positive experience over there with that partner. They tell, again, you have sellers telling sellers that they had a positive experience with a specific partner. These types of things go a long way in helping both in the kind of proactive engagement and seller engagement when you reach out to them as well. So I really hope that was from a best practices standpoint that was helpful for you to hear. I'm going to hand it back over to Rajesh here, who's going to hand us over to Q&A and a sneak peek on the next session that we're going to have. Rajesh?
Thank you so much, Reese, for sharing these best practices. I mean, it was very clear, and more than anything else, it was actionable, right? Which I hope the audience was able to take away. Again, hope everyone enjoyed Reese's talk today. We have some time for Q&A, so please feel free to drop your questions in chat. Also, I want to call out, as I mentioned, this is a series of co-sell coaching sessions. Our next session is scheduled for April 23rd, and we'll be hosting another amazing Microsoft partner by the name of Abnormal Security in that session. You might have come across them, but do join that session on April 23rd to hear from Abnormal Security on their co-selling journey and some of the best practices that they have gleaned over that experience and over that journey. We'll drop a link to that session in session registration page in the chat, so please feel free to click and join. But again, wanted to thank you again for your time today, and look forward to seeing you again on April 23rd. As I mentioned, we have some time in chat, so please drop your questions and we'll get to it. Thank you, everyone.